We're going to take a quick break.
Go talk to them. We're going to take a quick break. We'll start at 7.
Grab him and put him in
So
there.
if you need to go to the restroom or do whatever we need to do. The council is out of executive session and we are back in with respect to the normal agenda for the city council meeting. And just for those that either are online or here, no decisions are ever made within the executive session. So there's been no decisions made that need to concern any level of the community. We're going to move to 4A quickly. Action item is PZE-22-0006, request for reconsideration of final decision in Aspen Homes zone map amendment request. And we're going to start the process. We just have to go through the process. And we're going to, right after this, we're going to go to visitor public comment. We're not going to go to 4B. Councilmember White, did you have anything that you need to say with respect to 4A?
Yes, just based on the fact that I did comment on this issue back before the election, I will recuse myself on this one.
Okay. Councilmember.
Pretty much same thing based on the fact that I made comments related to this issue. I will recuse myself from this also.
And you don't need to step down because they're leaving us with one. We are not going to vote. We will table 4A. There will not be any decision with respect to 4A, which is PZE-22-006. Are we where we need to be?
That is correct. So had Councilman Roeder been here this evening, we would have been able to proceed with the application, and it's, he had an unfortunate excused absence, if you will, and so that requires us to table this to the next council meeting. I've spoken with the applicant, and they are okay with having it at the next council meeting. We offered the opportunity for a special meeting if they wished, and he said the next council meeting was fine with him.
Thank you for that feedback. So now we have visitor public comment on non-agenda items. Teresa Roth, there you are. And then JJ Jacobson, and then Russ McLean.
Hi, I'm going to keep my remarks really short because I think everybody's really tired. So I had 3 points. I'm just going to talk about 1 point. My background is I've been following the Hayden zoning and all these issues for almost 6 or 7 months now, and really looking into the housing, affordable housing, and rental versus ownership issues. And what I want to point out is in just this short thing is interest rates are incredibly important, and they are not talked about. They're important for 2 reasons. Number one, right now, we have extremely low interest rates and extremely high inflation, which is causing a tsunami of investment and purchasing activity, which is completely irregular and utterly unsustainable. So we're going down this process of making plans and everything in a fundamental situation that you cannot continually have high inflation and low interest rates. That is unstable. There's many other unstable such things that are driving up the housing market right now. I'm not going to talk about them, but I am going to talk about interest rates for one other issue. I bought my first home 30 years ago, and I was paying 9% interest. And all the investors and all the stakeholders and all the financial interests were very much in line with me buying a home and paying 9% interest. And Hayden was developed in this environment where the interests of the financial interests supported home ownership. They supported home ownership because interest rates were high, and they were content to get their 5% or their 7%. And that's all most of us have known. Now, because interest rates are so low, these financial interests only want rentals. They want to own the rentals. They want us to be renters. And that's what's going on here. And that's why you're seeing this huge dichotomy between what the investors and what the stakeholders want and what the residents want. What we want, which is our own homes, our suburban homes, property that we own. We want our children to own property. We want our neighbors to own property. We want our workers to own property. When I was a kid, my parents were, what do you call it? We had working housing. I lived in working housing. The working housing was a home. It wasn't subsidized rentals, and it wasn't rentals that are designed for investors. So what you guys need to understand is what used to be true, which was the stakeholders and the financial interests wanted one thing, and the homeowners and the residents wanted the same thing, and now they are divergent. They're going in different directions. And you can no longer please everybody. You're going to have to choose. Because what the residents want is not a whole city turned over to rentals. What the city does not want is a whole bunch of workforce housing, which is subsidized rentals. We don't want subsidized rentals. We don't want rentals. We want homeowners. And if that homeownership is a mobile home, we don't care. We want owners, we want we want to be stakeholders in our own property. So it's about interest rates. Interest rates are what changed. And you guys have to choose whether you are supporting residents or financial interests, because you can no longer support them both in one stroke.
Thank you. Your address.
I've told you this.
I know every time, but I have to put it on this sheet. You're so good. I didn't want to interrupt you up there.
James Crow.
I know, but I need the specific home address. That's okay.
Why?
Because that's part of the deal. You can give it to Abby afterwards.
Okay, fine.
That's perfect. Thank you. My first home was 14%.
Ooh.
I know, so thank you. That was really, it's okay, I can't. JJ Jacobson. I know. And if you'll just state your address too, please, thanks.
I will. Good evening. My name is J.J. Jacobson. I live at 1494 East Burnham Avenue in our fine little city of Hayden. I was unable to find a mission statement on the City of Hayden's government page, although I did find Hayden's core values, of which professionalism is one, listed. I would think that everyone with the city believes that professionalism is paramount. I realize that this venue is not one where I can ask a question and get your responses. I realize that. But I would love to know if every one of you agree that professionalism is paramount. I think that it is with each of you. This week, there was a newspaper article, and Mr. Satterfield wrote a letter to the editor, and our mayor commented on it. Both of those comments were extremely unprofessional, and I'm embarrassed at the comments. You folks took a personal issue that you had and made it public, and that's unprofessional. And if any of you on the city council are not allowed to talk about issues to us public that you discuss in your city council meetings, you should not be talking about other council members or the mayor behind their back to the general public. It's unconscionable. So I'm asking you to keep those type of comments in-house. If you have to resolve issues between any of you, keep it amongst yourselves. Don't make it a public issue. It does not look kindly upon our fine town. Thank you.
Thank you. Russ?
Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay with this mask on? My prescription for horse tranquilizers have run out. I want to talk about this,
Russ, your address, please.
2360 East Hayden View Drive, Coeur d'Alene.
Thank you.
We own property here in town as well. This expression of gross, you know, I don't see affordable housing as gross. You know, there's a lot of other things. The Hayden boat ramp outpacing Walmart for calls of service, that's gross. Norris wanting $300,000 more money out of the citizens of Hayden for the selective few at the boat ramp, that's gross. Us, in my lifetime, I don't remember my interest rate. Probably paid cash back then, it was cheap. But I've paid to build and or remodel 20 schools for kids that can't live here. That's gross. We're educating somebody else's workforce. That's just beyond gross. That's despicable. You know, I think that there's a lot of other things that are more gross around here than affordable housing, you know? Nicole, she grew up here, learned to walk in the Super One up here, and she's right now in leadership class in Champaign, Illinois, with the Air Force. That's the people we want to live here. She doesn't want to live here. There's no reason for her to live here. It's too expensive, it's too rude, you know, it's not a place. None of her friends live here. So they're off being somebody else's workforce, and I'm paying for it. That's gross, okay? So you need to start focusing on businesses coming, not being so abrupt, you know? The mayor and the past council have done a terrific job with bringing in business, so people can afford to buy houses, good quality jobs. You know, everybody needs a place to live. You know, I think I paid $17,000 for my first house here, which is 5 acres in Dalton Gardens. You know, I mean, look, I'm not that old. Okay, so, you know, you guys have a bigger responsibility. You could take your ideology and leave it at the door and do what's important for the city of Hayden, not what's important for the Chihuahuas. Okay? And you need to grow up. And I'll be after you if you don't straighten up too. Okay, so far you're your own man. I appreciate it. But picking on the kids and people who need a place to live to keep our society running is not gross. Okay? These kids need a place to live. That's all I got to say. I'm flabbergasted of what you had to say. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. But it's okay. You could have those discussions outside. 4B, discuss draft code changes to add a second public hearing before city council for certain land use matters.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Do you want to take this one, Donna? Ed? I don't know where we want to go with this.
We don't know where we're going with this.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm distracted.
We're going to send a referee to the hallway.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and he didn't come tonight, so. Thank you.
Sorry, that's why we were distracted.
Where are we at?
4B.
Are you?
I wish it, so, yes, who wants to lead that discussion?
So, Councilmember DePriest had discussed the possibility of adding back in a second public hearing, and I presented just a slide last night to Planning and Zoning to kind of bring them up to speed. So I actually came in on Saturday and did some research because both Brett and I had thought that there was a second public hearing that was part of the subdivision process as well as the zone map amendment process. And so for those of you in the audience that have no clue what I'm talking about, the process is that when land use actions come before, certain land use actions come before the Planning and Zoning Commission, they hear those at public hearing, you receive public testimony either in person at the meeting or in writing beforehand, written comments, emails, faxes, people come in and talk to us, all those fun things. But at the public hearing, you have the opportunity to present in front of Planning and Zoning, and then moving that process to the City Council in the case of zone map amendments and subdivisions and plan unit developments and annexations. The zone map amendment 2 years ago was changed from a second public hearing with City Council to a single public meeting. Still, City Council had the final decision. That aligned more with state code that requires you to have one public hearing with your Planning and Zoning Commission and then a follow-up meeting with your governing board, which is our City Council. In the review of that, that happened a couple of years ago in 2020 for those exact reasons. I went back trying to figure out when the subdivision code changed, and I kept going backwards and backwards and backwards, and ultimately found out that in 2000, before 2000, the public hearing for a subdivision came before City Council because we didn't have a Planning and Zoning Commission. So then when the Planning and Zoning Commission was established in 2000, the public hearing was moved to Planning and Zoning, as it should be, because it's a land use action. And then that process was a written recommendation that came before City Council. The reason that Brett and I kind of thought that they all had public hearings is because oftentimes they come forward with, concurrently with zone map amendments that had a public hearing. Or they came forward where the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that they went from a cul-de-sac to a through street for connectivity, and that was a substantial change from what had been noticed, so that required a second public hearing. But in no case since 2000 was there ever a second public hearing for subdivisions. So I've drafted some drafty, very drafty, Wanda's hardly had a chance to blink at it, language to reinstate the second public hearing for zone map amendments, and was just looking for direction from the council as to whether or not that was the only land use action you were looking for that second public hearing for, in light of that historical information I found this weekend.
Councilmember DePriest, do you have comments with?
I guess to clarify, PUD, zone change, and subdivision, is that what we're talking about reinstating?
No, PUDs have always just had a public hearing with planning and zoning and a public meeting with city council. And subdivisions from this in beginning of planning and zoning have always had just a public meeting with planning and zoning and a public hearing with planning and zoning and a public meeting with city council. The only one that recently changed were the zone land use matters that changed to that same format. And I'd been kind of instructed to look at only changing those back. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, and again, I think I'm having to choose, the input that I'm getting from the constituents, Mom, is that those who have spoken to me feel the desire, the need to speak to, as they put it, their elected officials who they want some accountability for on these type of decisions. And I guess this is the reason for the request of this is I feel that, I can't say I, can I?
Sure you can.
Sure you can.
As a council member, you can.
I believe there is a need to meet the people's desires to be able to express themselves in a hearing related to those issues. Because from the input that I have gotten, they don't feel that that opportunity is or has been there recently. Does that make sense?
Can I just help with them? In this podium, that's exact, you may say, I feel all day long.
Okay.
This is exact, that's why, other places maybe not, but this place is, that's where you say,
Okay.
this is what I believe. And I'd like to recommend that this happen because I've talked to people, that's so appropriate.
Okay, I'd like,
So,
from the feedback I've gotten from the people, they'd like to have a hearing before the council on these issues. And so I would like to recommend consideration by the council to move forward on that. Is that
Great.
okay?
Councilmember White, I'll start. Are you okay with that direction for council?
Yes, I felt the same thing.
Perfect. Councilmember Satterfield, are you okay with that direction for council? Or for staff, not for council?
I have mixed feelings on it because if I remember right, Donna, and correct me, but at one point, nobody showed up for any of the hearings. And that was one of the reasons that council didn't hear all of it.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean I'm opposed to it. I'm just kind of giving a little history on why it went that way. So,
Well, based upon direction from two of the council members and the mayor, I think Donna, we can move forward in that regard.
Just for zone maps.
I guess maybe a way to put it is, so 2 years ago, it was just the zone map, or zone change request. That, and so we went to just a public meeting. Do you want us to prepare something that just undoes that and takes us back to where we were? Or I think what Donna was asking is, all the way back down to 2000, there were subdivisions and PUDs that were also a second
Subdivision
hearing.
code has not changed in relationship to public hearings since 2000. So 22 years, that code has remained the same.
So right now, and Ed, you're welcome to speak to it, right now, the more opportunity for input on a public level, I think is far more healthy. So.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, no, I was clarifying, not arguing, so that's okay, go
I
ahead.
like that. I guess to address Councilmember Satterfield also, I think really this is just for the opportunity, and you may be probably correct in that there may be issues where nobody shows up to testify, but the whole thing is at least there is the opportunity that if somebody wants to come and address the council on an issue, you have the opportunity. When I say, well, it's a meeting and you can't, testify, why not? On all three issues, I guess, whether it's been removed or needs to be added or whatever it is, I would request that there be a public hearing on PUD, subdivision, and zone change where the public has that opportunity. Now, whether any show up, if nobody shows up, any public comment, no, okay. But the opportunity, I think, is what's important.
Legal, are we okay?
Yes, you're okay. Legal. Legal. You have an obligation to provide at least one public hearing, which is being accommodated right now at the planning and zoning level. And for the public that doesn't know maybe what the whole process looks like, an application comes to staff works with the applicant, they prepare the packet, it goes to planning and zoning. Planning and zoning meeting is where the public hearing is held. Planning and zoning then makes a recommendation to council with regards to approval or not. Then it comes right now just for a public meeting at council. So you'll see the applicant present, you'll see staff present, but no public comment on the application. So that's kind of what they're talking about for anybody who doesn't know the difference. So you would just duplicate the planning and zoning process for the public hearing at council as well. And oftentimes you'll have the same people who will testify at both hearings. They just have a different set of ears the second time around. So process-wise, it does lengthen with the notice requirements and the staff time and the publication costs. It does lengthen time and expense for getting those applications processed. But I think you're fine in having a second public hearing. Also, please know, the applicant always has a right to ask for a second public hearing also. So
Just consistent, Councilmember.
I just wanted to clarify that I am not against having more public hearings for the public to express themselves. I was merely pointing out that that's one of the reasons it didn't continue to happen, more public hearings, because some of the public was saying, I don't want to go to 2 hearings. So, back then, we kind of followed what the public was telling us too. So, but no, obviously, there's more public that's interested now, and I think that's great, but years gone by, not so much.
Thank you. So
here, maybe just another question on how you want us to proceed. I see 2 ways. We could prepare a draft change to our ordinance that includes all 3 of those, either way we could do that. Bring it back to the next meeting, not set the public hearing yet, but get discussion. I heard yesterday from Alan, I don't know if he talked with you or if he talked with anyone else from P&Z. He said, I have the solution to that, and I thought he was going to be here tonight, and he's not here.
But you could talk to him.
So we could talk with him. So the question is,
feedback.
we could bring that, have the discussion, talk about possible reasons for or against, for example, including subdivisions and not including subdivisions along with it. There's some technical reasons that Donna probably would like to be able to state. And then in the end, if that's what you want to do, that's what we'll do. And then also allows Alan the ability from P&Z to.
So move forward. I guess.
Otherwise, the next step could be to set a public hearing.
But if there's the council deserves to have the data necessary, and if there's complications in one area different than the others, it would just be good to identify that.
Okay.
So,
Yes, and from a process perspective, the text amendments would go through planning and zoning before they would come to council also.
just a different.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. City Administrator report?
4 quick things, because I know we're running late. February 24th is the State of the City with the Chamber. Council and staff are usually there, and the public's invited as well. You just have to contact the Chamber of Commerce to be able to get there.
It'll be in the morning?
Yeah, it's at 7 a.m.
7:30. Where are they meeting now? It's different than the Croc Center.
Western.
Where?
Is it the Best Western?
It's the Best Western.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, just off the freeway
thank
there.
you.
Yeah, they started meeting there. Wanted to give you a heads up. We have some grant opportunities that I've asked staff to look into. We met on a staff level as part of the Parks Plan. We talked about pickleball courts, and there are 2 grants that we're looking at. One's a Blue Cross grant that we could be eligible for like $85,000, and then there's an AARP grant. And so we looked at that, and we have budgeted for next year some pickleball courts to use some impact fee money. We thought it would be a good idea to put together a grant application for these pickleball courts. It would just reduce the amount we'd have to spend out of impact fees.
Where?
We're looking at the property at Stoddard Park, so it's just on the north side. There's a piece of property that the city owns. It's across the street from the parking lot, if you've seen that, but the city owns that property there, and there's not really a great use for it. We had submitted a grant before that Abby had put together for us, and we'd asked for, was it 200,000, and we didn't get that grant, and so we had talked about it. This was sometime last year. So it's a heads up. I think it's a good thing. It's part of the budgeting. But if you have any concerns with that, let us know. At this point, there's not anything we have to provide. Before we do anything or spend any money, it would come back to the council for approval and contracts and those kind of things. So it's more of an informational.
Can I make?
Abby wants to.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing, that if we do, for the Blue Cross of Idaho Foundation grant, it is a community project, and so they are, if we do get selected for this project, they're looking to help us with community engagement, and they're going to provide that service for us. So we will be looking to the community for their input on this project as well, and making sure that that is a usable project for our citizens.
We're looking at 4 courts, and it's pretty popular right now. So, and it is part of our plan to do this. So. The workshop that was scheduled for 3:30 today, we didn't receive any other direction, but we went ahead, and then I told Abby that we just put it before the next meeting on the 22nd.
That is for the comp plan amendment.
Yeah, for just discussion and.
It's the extension of the workshop from last
Yep.
night, so, yeah, okay.
And then also, just an update on the Honeysuckle Beach. We did have, really good comment, a lot of people here. And there is still opportunity to comment until this Friday the 11th. You can go online to our website, and you can give comments on the different options. You also can find the information there on what the options are. And then after that, the working group will get an update on that information on the 15th, just so you know, and then we plan on, once they put together all this information and a report, we'll come back to the council, and there'll be a report given on what was found on the Honeysuckle Beach. So we're at a point where we can go kind of anyway, so. And then just last LID update, we had a meeting concerning a local improvement district to help fund the H6 sewer basin, the lift station there. We wanted to let you know it is somewhat complicated, and we have been working on that with the engineers, with the developers, with the county, and gathering information to put together that information to come back to the council. So you'll get more information, but I wanted to let you know we haven't dropped that. We're working on that behind the scenes. In fact, some of the main players were here in person today that we met with, and we were talking about different ways to do this. And so the city would have a portion that we have our responsibility for, and then the developers would have a responsibility. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything else from any member staff? We okay? I do have a comment, and I appreciate the amount of work and your patience, especially as we were in executive session. Councilmember White has a good heart, and I believe that her intent and her heart are consistent with her beliefs, and I look forward to working with her. I've made that known publicly to others as well, and you're welcome to talk to her about any other issues, but I just want to make sure that's a comment that I can make, and I'm grateful that she serves with us on our. Any other comments from any member of the council?
I do.
Please.
Okay, I have several, I guess, because it's my understanding that the way to bring things forward for future consideration is to bring them out here, if I'm understanding that correctly. So a couple things, some based on requests from constituents who have contacted me. And the first one is, I guess, is there any interest? What are the legal code criteria issues? The request has been to allowing comments on agenda items. So I don't know, if we need to ask for commentary to bring that forward to an agenda item, I guess. All of these are going to be requests to, I guess, bring things forward to the next step.
I don't understand. To allow public comment to be concerning agenda items?
Correct. As now, you cannot speak as to agenda items, but
there's a legal ramification.
Let's let him work through his list first. And
Yeah,
then-
but that'll be something to talk to Fawn
Yes.
about.
okay. Another one, the issues that have occurred on D Court, down at the church recently, there have been shootings, and there's a lot of commentary within the community and the sheriff's law enforcement requests, and I think it's something that we really need to start looking at, and at least I would like to bring forth the consideration of preparing numbers, hard numbers, as to if we are going to fund the sheriff's requests for more deputies and what he has proposed over the next couple of years, I guess. I would just like to somehow have a workup. What will it cost the taxpayer on average? If we can probably make it simple, an average home, $500,000. If we did year 1, year 2, year 3, as I understand, it's kind of a progressive thing over time, but so that the numbers are out there. So if it says a $500,000 home, it's going to cost you, it's just $100 a year on your property tax. But an estimation, because I am not going to vote up here to increase property taxes that way, but I will vote to put it to the people on the ballot and say, here are the numbers, here's the situation, and let them decide whether they want to do it. But I think it needs to be put out there with clear facts based on what's happening, because it concerns me that we've had 2 shootings in the last 2 or 3 weeks in the city of Hayden. And I've gone on ride-alongs with the sheriff, and there are things, 3 different, and I will continue to, and there are issues that the average citizen isn't aware of, doesn't know that they're dealing with, that you probably won't become aware of it until it happens to you. And so I think this really needs to be a community discussion with numbers, realistic numbers, that obviously eventually it's put to the community to say, do you want it or not? So I guess if we, can we discuss that and bring that forward? Since the government way study last meeting, I've had communication, comment of concern of government way, government way, but Orchard and Maple also. And I'd like to bring that discussion because the sense I get is that the people who talk to me about it feel it's just being pushed down the road. Maple, I drive Maple probably every day because honestly, I avoid this out here. And so do a lot of other people. And the people who drive that or live on that road are very much concerned about what they're seeing. And I don't know what we can do, but I'd like to have that discussion, as well as now that the proposal for a future signal on Orchard and Government Way, it was expressed they now have a concern that if and when that happens, it will invite more people to use Orchard to come across and then, go either way type of thing as far as that. So I would request that become either a discussion or an action item or whatever, the process is on that. Another one, the sign code 11.5-5, specifically A.2.I. This past election, all cities, and I will just discuss ours, had ridiculous issues with election signs. The code says, if I'm not mistaken, they can't be in right-of-ways and public, under power lines or utility lines and things like that, and they must be on private property with the property owner's permission. Well, I was seeing them stabbed, right off the side of the road, all over the place, and I would hope that there could be a discussion, if there's an interest in maybe changing to a definite setback. My idea would be, say, 30 feet, just to throw my thing out there. So there is no, ambiguity in it. So it caused a lot of issues, and then another city had a real issue with it, which kind of blew out of whack. We had a co-planning and zoning and council workshop yesterday, where discussion came up regarding the possibility of an ordinance revision, I guess. I don't know if I'm using the proper terminology here, to possibly add mixed use 1 and mixed use 2. And I believe everybody on the council was at that. And I would like to bring that forward for discussion, agenda item discussion, as soon as possible. And the last one, and it's separate from the comprehensive plan amendment. It is more another ordinance revision, 8-2, related to it, if I'm not mistaken, 11-2-8, somewhere in that vicinity, regarding revisiting mixed use density criteria and potentially adding a tiered mixed use density level from a base. I believe we discussed this also yesterday, of possibly setting a base which is related specifically to what is on the map, and then creating a step up and then a second step up, so that council could have the opportunity to look at each individual project as to, will it benefit the city? Will it benefit the people? Will it not burden the people? Because depending on where it is, when you have a straightforward type of thing where here it is, sometimes it might not just fit. And I think that we need to hopefully discuss options to visit that issue, if that makes sense, or, I believe everybody was there yesterday when we talked about that, but I'd like to ask, is there an interest to bring these issues to agenda items?
Council, that's great discussion, and this is where we would ask. So is there any concern with any of those issues? Because we can add them to the agenda for discussion items. If no one is in conflict with that, then we can add those to obviously agenda discussion items. I think those are good points. Okay. Council Member White.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to just say that I wish this other gentleman was here right now to say that last week when I said the word gross, what I meant to say, all I can tell you is what I meant to say was that I go by them and there's a 12 by 12, it's 144, it's a gross, and I didn't mean to disparage the apartments themselves. I have high hopes that they will be 144 affordable homes for our people. And so, and I would just also like to say that I really look forward to working together with our city council here. I think we can work together very well. And I did put a rebuttal to the comments made to me. It's going to come out in the paper tomorrow. I've been thinking about that today, and all day today, and I think that those things can be resolved very easily, and we can work together. So just want to head that off. And I also just want to say that in light of the Honeysuckle Beach incident with the drowning and our incident on D Court, that I'm very proud of our law enforcement and how they came to our aid. And I'm so proud of our deputies, Tanner Cox, Cody Reagan, and Zach Perry, and their rescue at Honeysuckle Beach was just amazing. And then Sheriff Norris and our Fire Chief Riley and all their crews came to action during the standoff on Sunday. So I just want to say job well done to our heroes.
And you meant the not drowning.
The not drowning.
The not drowning incident.
That's right. Thank you.
Councilmember Satterfield.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Hearing that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. I don't need a second. I don't know why on that one.
Okay. Then I rescind my second.
I don't.